back. Hello. Welcome to the Edgar Allan Poe Speakeasy. Yes. Before we officially get started with our journey of libations with our literary legend, a few house rules to go over. If you have any allergens, any of the elements of our drinks this afternoon, please let your server know as they come to your section. Also, if you need a mocktail, a non-alcoholic drink, let them know that as well. Although this is Riverside, I don't think that's very likely. Restrooms, folks, are located in this lobby right here, to the right and the left. Also, there are additional restrooms around that hallway as you came up the stairs. If you were to take a left, like you're going straight through this wall. As for your cellular devices, please turn off ringers, notifications, and whatnot. You have 3 different breaks during this show to socialize, check your phones. However, we do invite you and encourage you to take photos, even videos. Just don't use flash, as you will disturb the performers. Yes, there will be puns. Also tag us at Edgar Allan Poe Speakeasy when you post. And help me fulfill my dream of becoming a social media influencer. Alright. With all that being said, Edgar Allan Poe. Over a century and a half past his death in 1849, no one remains as synonymous with mystery and macabre in literature as he. A true master of words. EAP, as he's known in the streets, is widely attributed to being the first American author to make a living exclusively through writing. So much like writers today, he didn't make any money. Come on, my friends. In his more personal facets of life, he was plagued by copious amounts of death, sickness, and even disease. Perhaps that is why Edgar's works often dwell in that deep, dark corner of our literary consciousness. Often straddling the line between petrifyingly plausible, yet nearly impossible. This afternoon we present to you 4 of Poe's most beloved works in our creative adaptation. At the end of each Poe performance, a warning. Please feel free to hoot, holler, clap, stomp, and whatnot. Encourage you to express yourselves and show these actors their appreciation. I assure you, they love the accolades. Don't just sit there like crickets, my friends. I also promise you one other thing. That each and every story this afternoon does indeed come from the heart. And with that, we now proudly present to you your first tale of the day. This is the Tell-Tale Heart.
I am nervous. Very dreadfully nervous. But how can you say that I am mad? Listen and observe how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. For I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. I think it was his eye. Yes. That was it. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, blood ran cold, and so I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Well, now you think I'm mad, but you should have seen me and seen how wisely I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. Every night, about midnight, opened his door very gently, so not to disturb the old man's sleep. Once in the room, I lit my lantern so very cautiously, so that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. But I found the eye was always closed, and so it was impossible to do the deed, to kill the old man with his evil eye. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. But on this night, perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Not a second or two passed before the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept silent and still for a whole hour. He did not move a muscle. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I had done night after night. And although he neither saw nor heard me, he could feel my presence in the room. I decided to make just the tiniest little crack in the lamp. As I opened it, a tiny beam of light shot from out the crevice and fell upon his wide-open vulture eye. Then I heard it. The sound of the old man's heartbeat. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme, but the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now, a new fear seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. But for many minutes, the heart beat on a muffled sound. And finally, it ceased. The old man was dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me to be mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. I worked hastily, but in silence as I dismembered the corpse. I took up 3 planks from the floor into the room and put the body underneath the floor. I then replaced the door so cleverly that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. As the bell sounded at 4 a.m. hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves as police officers. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night, and they had been dispatched to search the house. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I welcomed them in, assuring that the shriek was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was out of the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I placed my own seat upon the 3 boards. The officers were satisfied. My calm manner had convinced them. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But not after long. I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I got a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a louder voice. Yet the sound increased. What could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound. I talked more quickly, more confidently, but the noise steadily increased. Was it possible they heard nothing at all? Almighty God, no. No, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this. I could bear those smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now it grows. The heartbeat louder, 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 louder. All right! Taunt me no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the place. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart.
Around here, if you don't like it, we say you have poor taste. If you do like it, we say you have Poe taste. Thank you for your understanding. All right, back to the biography. My friends, you know, Edgar's life as a young man was a hard and difficult road. Born in 1809 in Boston to actors David and Elizabeth Poe. Just 1 year after his grand entrance into the world, Edgar's father will step away from the family, never to be seen or heard from again. In the year following that, his mother will fall gravely ill with a disease that will go on to ravage the rest of Edgar's life. And this disease goes by the name of tuberculosis. Remember this well. Edgar is then separated from his two siblings and taken in by the Allan family of Richmond, Virginia. Although never formally adopted, he lived with them far in the young adult years, until his foster mother also falls ill. And the disease that will go on to take her life goes by the name of... The drinks are making you smarter. Edgar is now left alone with his foster father, who he's a bit at odds with. This foster father of his encourages him to enroll in the West Point Academy. After a few short months, Edgar soon realizes this is not the career path for him. He'd much rather be alone, scrawling away into the wee hours of the night at his writing desk. He starts to recluse himself from his peers, and instead finds much more company and companionship in that of animals, especially cats. You'll soon find that Edgar's works now often center around animals. And this next piece is no exception. nor solicit belief. For tomorrow, I die. And today, I merely wish to unburden my soul. My immediate purpose is to lay before the world a series of mere household events. Events that have terrified me and destroyed me.
He's gone.
I was young when I married. My wife saw my love of domesticated pets, and she lost no opportunity of procuring as many as she possibly could. We had birds, a goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. Now this cat was an enormous cat, a beautiful animal, and was entirely jet black. I named her Pluto, and she was the pet that I liked best. Now my wife was a bit superstitious and used to joke that the cat could be a witch in disguise. So I alone fed it. She used to follow me all through the house, and even into the streets. Our relationship continued in this blissful manner for several years, and then I began to change. I grew day by day more moodier, more irritable, more regardless of the feelings of others. I didn't wish to harm anyone, but the disease grew stronger and took hold. I drank more and more, much more than I should. One day, I came home, much intoxicated, to find that the cat was ignoring my presence. This angered me greatly, so I seized it. In flight of my violence, it inflicted a small wound upon my hand. With its teeth, a nip. The fury of a demon possessed me. I knew myself no longer, so I grabbed from my waistcoat pocket a small pocket knife, opened it, grasped the poor beast by the throat, and then I began to gouge one of the eyeballs from the socket. I shudder even as I tell this horrible deed.
And so then, what transpires once you gouge the eyeball from the body?
The cat slowly recovered, no longer appearing to be in any pain. It continued about the house, but as to be expected, it fled at the sight of me. This angered me greatly. So one night, I slipped a noose about its neck, and I hung it from the limb of a tree. I knew that it had left me, that it made no offense, but it had to be done, even if it placed my soul beyond the reach of the most merciful God. That night, I was awoken from my sleep by the sound of fire. It quickly rushed up the curtains of my home. With no small feat, my wife and I escaped the house. But then the thought gripped me. Could this be the work of the cat in some mysterious way? Could it have ignited the flames to wish its revenge upon me for my evil deed? For months, I could not escape this thought. One night, I sat, half drunk, as usual, in my local tavern, when my eyes were quickly distracted to the corner of the room, and I saw, perched there, a cat. Exactly like Pluto, except for one small patch
on this otherwise black cat. I reached out to pet it, and it arched its back against the back of my hand. Seeing as it took a liking to me, I asked the innkeeper if I may purchase it from him, but he said he'd never seen it before. I left, and it followed me, so I left. Once home, it domesticated itself at once, and quickly became a favorite of my wife. This angered me greatly. It was the exact opposite of my intention. So I began to hate the cat. The evil thoughts became the sole thoughts of my head. The moodiness of my original temper increased to hatred of all things and of all mankind.
Continue. What did you do as your rage grew?
One night, my wife beckoned me down into what remained of our cellar. As I climbed down the steep stairs, the cat beckoned at the back of my heels, narrowly sending me headfirst down them. I snapped. I grabbed an old axe off the wall, and I swung in my wrath, in which I aimed a blow at the animal. If not for the quick work of my hand, of my wife's quick hand, I would have landed a fatal blow on that cat. Not knowing myself, I removed the axe from my hand and buried the axe in her grave. This evil deed accomplished, I began to ponder how I would dispose of the corpse. I may not remove it from the home without being seen, so I began to wonder if I should either cut it up into bits or destroy it by fire. I then decided to wall it up in the cellar, as the Middle Ages monks would have done. Days passed, and the cat never returned, although I did not search. My neighbors came by to ask what happened to my wife, and I responded with ease. She was just away. Officers of the police came, assured that they would find nothing. I offered them to search the house, and they did, bit by bit. They were satisfied and began to leave, and then an unknown force compelled me immediately to tell them that all was well. Nothing is suspicious here. The walls of this house, I said, are very strongly built. This is a fine, old house. With my final word, my stick then struck the brick behind which was the body of my wife. The reverberations of my blow sunk into silence when no sooner they were answered by a voice beyond the tomb. A cry, at first muffled, but then growing louder, almost like a wailing, a screaming now, like the echoes of the dead crying out in pure agony. Ah! For a moment, the officers looked at each other. Then they began to pick at the bricks and found the body of my wife. There, on the head of the body, dyed black with blood, smelling of death and decay. Its one eye open with fire, its mouth wide open, the color of blood, sat that hideous beast of a cat! That damned cat! It had been the one crying out its revenge! The cat whose act had seduced me into murder, and whose cool voice sentenced me to death. I had walled the monster up within the tomb.
Good people, the year is now 1836. And as Edgar grows older, his writing grows stronger. He also enters into what is perhaps the most blissful time of his life. You see, Edgar Allan Poe has fallen in love. Heart is proud to watch the Notebook. Now, the lucky lady in question goes by the name of Miss Virginia Clem. At the time of their marriage, Edgar is indeed 27 years of age, and Miss Virginia is 13. That story, I'm just repeating a Wikipedia page. Oh, they are also first cousins. Moving on. However, this marriage is blessed by Miss Virginia's mother, so much so that she vows not only to live with the couple for the rest of their marriage, but also for the entirety of each of their individual lives. Yes. Can you imagine living with your mother-in-law until you die? But you see, this blissful time is short-lived. As Miss Virginia climbs into her 20s, she also starts to fall a bit ill. She begins to leave the house less frequently, starts leaving the bedroom not as often, until she's eventually completely bedridden. The year is now 1845, and Edgar pens a poem that he will sell to a local paper for a grand total of $9. That's about $350 by today's standards. This poem will become widely criticized, because now Edgar's writing themes don't just center around animals, they also feature the untimely death of young women. Folks start to argue that he's driving his bride to an early grave by writing about such sinister topics. But that simply isn't true. It's just the progression. The progression of the disease that will go on to take her life, which goes by the name of? Regrettably, yes. This next piece is perhaps Edgar's way of grappling with losing that love of his life. Imagine what it's like late at night, alone in his bedroom chamber, or perhaps writing away at his desk. And what those sounds of the night might do, like a scratching at the glass or a tapping at the door. Without further ado, may I proudly present to you Edgar Allan Poe's perhaps most famous piece. This is our adaptation of The Raven.
Upon a midnight prayer, while I ponder, weak and weary, as I nodded, nearly nothing, suddenly there came a tap at my chamber door. Must be a visitor, I muttered to myself. Only this and nothing more. Distinctly, I remember it was in the bleak December. The fireplace, don't know, only dying embers. Ghosts crept into my mind. Eagerly I wished to forget my sorrow and sadness at my loss. Love. Lenore. Oh, my Lenore. Just then, I heard it. The rustling of each purple satin curtain filled me with terror, like never before. To still the intense beating of my heart, I stood repeating. There is a visitor at the entrance of my chamber door. Some late visitor at the entrance of my chamber door. It is this, nothing more. Sir! Or madam? Apologies! I was napping, and so faintly you were tapping. Thought no one was at my chamber door. Yet, I opened wide the door. Darkness. Nothing more. The silence was unbroken. The stillness gave no token. The only word there spoken, my whispered word. Lenore? An echo murmured back the way. Lenore. Just this. Nothing more. Again, I heard the tapping, somewhat louder than before. There is something scratching at my window. It is the wind, nothing more. I threw open the window shutters. And therein fluttered a jet black raven into my chamber room, perched just above my chamber door. There it sat, and did nothing more. This ebony bird had made me smile. Its stern, grave appearance. Hello? Tell me your name, little raven. Then said the raven, nevermore. I was stunned to have the silence broken by this one repeated word. That his master beat him, and all hope left him never to return. So I pulled up my seat in front of this bird atop my door, staring eye to eye. What could he mean by croaking nevermore? I swore. I smelled her scent, and the air became more dense. God has sent you because of Lenore, my poor, forgotten Lenore. To this, said the raven, nevermore. Prophet, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, tell me who sent you here. Can I not just heal? To this only, said the raven, nevermore. Prophet, the thing of evil. Prophet still, if bird or devil, please, I beg you, tell me, are you here because of my long lost love? Lenore, will we be together again? Someday, perhaps in heaven, somewhere far away. Then woke the raven, nevermore. Then let that word be our sign of parting, bird or fiend. You lie! Go! Go back from where you came. Fly away and leave no trace. Not a single plume can be left in this place. Leave! Leave my loneliness unbroken. And leave from top my chamber door take thy beak out from my heart. And take thy form from off my door. Then quote the raven. Nevermore.
in Edgar's life. And he carries on the world without a partner by his side. But he does what many of us do in a time of struggle. He immerses himself in his work and eventually turns himself to the bottom. This all leads up to one fateful night in October of 1849 where Edgar Allan Poe is found, semi-conscious, wearing clothes that are not his own, and muttering in incoherent sentences. Some passersby see him, and they try to seek medical attention, but they find it is too late. Just a few short days later in the hospital, Edgar Allan Poe is pronounced dead. There are many theories bandied about at the time over his official cause of death. We like to think that Edgar intended it that way, leaving us one final mystery to wrap our minds around, unravel, and marinate in that deep, dark corner of our literary consciousness. Nonetheless, Edgar exits this mortal world at only the age of 40. Yes. However, 100 years later, in 1949, and lasting half a century, a new character enters the flame. This anonymous individual will become known as the Poe Toaster. Every year, on the eve of Edgar's birthday, this Poe Toaster will arrive at his gravesite and leave 2 items. 3 loose rose stems, the reason for the garnish of your final drink, and 1 half-drunk bottle of cognac. What is not known is whether this anonymous Poe Toaster consumed that half bottle of cognac themselves, or simply just poured one out for the homie. No flash. This ended at the beginning, yeah. We may never know what this Poe Toaster did, but we do know one thing, that all of us one day shall die. We cannot escape death. but we can only hope to leave behind a legacy as great as Edgar Allan Poe. And with that, we now present to you your final tale of the afternoon, and perhaps Edgar's most sinister work. This is the Masque of Red Death.
The Red Death had long been feeding on the country. No sickness had ever been so great a killer, or so fearful to see. Its mark was blood, along with sharp pains and the mind racing around in circles inside the head. And then there was the bleeding through the skin, though it was not cut or broken. And then, death. The bright red spots upon the face and body of the sick man caused other men to turn away from him. They were too afraid to try and help. And the sickness lasted from beginning to end no more than half an hour. But when Prospero, the ruler of that land, saw that half the people of his land had died, he called to him 1,000 healthy, happy friends, and with them he went far away to live in one of his palaces. Now this was a tall, beautiful building made of stone, and it was surrounded by a strong wall with gates of iron. And there, Prospero would provide everything needed. Pleasure. There was music, there was dancing. They had food to eat and cocktails to drink. Cheers. All of these things were there within the walls, where they would be able to feel safe and could forget about the sickness of the Red Death. They would leave the outside world to care for itself. Now, after 3 months passed, Prospero asked his friends to gather for a masquerade party to help lift the spirits. Everyone was to come dressed in their finest clothes and their finest masks. This was a scene of great richness, that masquerade. But there were 7 rooms in which the friends of Prospero danced. And in his winding palace, little more than 1 room could be seen at a time. In each room, there were 3 tall, pointed windows of colored glass, the same color used in each room. In the first room, there were blue cloth hangings on the wall, and blue were its windows. In the second room, the cloth hangings were purple, and purple were its windows. In the third room, green, the fourth room, yellow, the fifth room, white, and the sixth room was a violet. But in the seventh room, the cloth hangings were black, as dark as night, and the floor too was covered in the same heavy black cloth. But in this room, the windows were red, a deep blood color. Now each room cast a strange light indeed as it colored the faces of the dancers inside, so much so that very few dared to enter the red room because of the awfully familiar sight of Red Death that it bore. The red room. In the corner of the room there stood a tall black clock of wood that gently marked the seconds as they passed. And at the top of each hour, it spoke with a deep, loud, beautiful tone, as beautiful as music. But so strange that the dancing and the music would stop, and the few masqueraders standing inside would stand still and listen to it speak. But nevertheless, this was a beautiful masquerade party, as the dancers moved gently through the rooms throughout the night. At the top of the hour, the clock would speak, the music and the dancing would stop, and the few masqueraders standing inside would stand still and listen to the slow striking sound. But this time, before the clock could silence itself, masqueraders noticed that in the first room, the blue room, There was a strange masquerader that no one had seen before. And as they began to whisper about him amongst themselves, a feeling of surprise spread through the room. And then, sickening terror. Now, with a group such as this, only a strange masquerader could have caused such a feeling. He was tall, and he was very thin, and he was dressed from head to foot like a dead man ready for the grave. And his face looked like that of a dead man too, so much so the nearest eye could not tell the difference. And all of this would have been fine and well, except the strange masquerader who no one knew had dressed himself like the Red Death itself. His clothes were covered in spots of blood, and the mask covering his face was covered in red spots, or perhaps it was indeed his face. But when Prospero came to the blue room and looked upon the stranger, he cried, "Who dares? Take him! Seize him! Pull off his mask so we may know whom to hang at sunrise." Many of the dancers came rushing into the room and they went to grab hold of the masquerader. When they looked upon him, they stopped in fear. They were afraid. And the stranger began to make his way through the rooms with a slow, measured step. From the blue room to the purple room. From the purple room into the green room. From the green room into the yellow room. From the yellow room into the white room. From the white room and into the violet. And no one dared to go after him except Prospero. Prospero chased after the stranger with a sharp knife and he went to strike him. But the masquerader turned and he looked him in his eyes. And then there came a great cry, and the shiny knife fell on the black floor, covered in blood. And then Prospero fell dead. Many of the dancers, the strongest of the strong, came rushing into the room, and they went to grab hold of the masquerader. But when they grabbed him, they found his grave clothes. There was no human form, and no body. And that's when they knew that somehow in the night, the Red Death had entered the room. Instantly, all of the dancers fell dead. And then the music stopped, and the fire went out, and into the darkness and the decay of the night, the Red Death ruled forever.
Would not have been possible without our performers, our co-servers, our bartenders, sound and lighting. Please give them a round of applause. You are the first crowd of the day. Great the time as we've had, I do have to let you know that our time together has come to an end for you. We have to go see the traffic. Provide you with a 5-star experience today. We hope that you enjoyed the show. We hope that you enjoyed the service free. We do not take it lightly that you got our dressed up and theme and spent your afternoon with us, so thank you so much. On your way out of the door, you'll see a box lit up in green to leave behind some cash. We do feed our families based on the generosity and supporters like you. If you don't have cash, Chris, we're a lot more modern than Poe. We have little cash up. Today allowed us to live our dream to shine. I thank you and good afternoon.